does this make Florida better? And I think this one does. And I gave my spiel on it a couple days ago on a Gators Breakdown Plus episode. I know we've discussed it here in the Discord a bit, but I'm pretty high on the move. I don't know how much of an impact it is. I think it is somewhat of a positive impact for Florida. Just how much, I think, is the question. Is it massive improvement? Is it enough? Massive improvement doesn't have to be enough improvement. I think that's where I go with that. I know we all want to see it, but how likely is it to have a huge turnaround on defense, given what we've seen on that side of the ball for a few years? But we see it all over college football. You get a new face in the building and things turn around. Things get better. Things get better fast and right away. I'm hoping that's what's happened here. But I think at the very least, something we hoped we would see last year, but we didn't. There's just some marginal improvement where this defense just isn't a liability week in and week out.
Dave, I'm really excited about the hire. Like I wish we'd have made it earlier, but do you know that any of those rumors are true that Auburn was trying to get rid of them? I mean, is that worrisome to us or anything?
Put it this way, even if they are, I don't think it's football related. If so, I did share Auburn's own 3 site, and I can't remember the site off the top of my head, but they did have a quote in there saying, he and Wesley McGriff, a former, Florida staffer as well, they didn't get along at Auburn, and they butted heads. And maybe if there was him not returning to Auburn, I don't think it had anything to do with football. Now, toward the end of the season, you did have the inexcusable loss to New Mexico State, and them running up and down the field. I know we all laughed at Auburn that day, but more than likely that's somewhat of an overlook style of game. And then, of course, you led Alabama. You shut down Alabama for 99% of the game, and then they throw that desperation pass there to win that game at the end. But, I mean, all in all, really good performances versus Alabama. Sorry about that. Really good performance versus Alabama. Really good performance versus Georgia. With overall for Ron Roberts' defense versus those 2 teams there at Auburn. So all in all, football reason, from everything I can gather, if he was leaving Auburn, that wasn't the reason.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that in your podcast. I mean, honestly, I don't think he was available when Napier got hired, but he was my top choice to be the DC to begin with when Napier got here, to be honest.
Yeah, and then if that was the case, that would have been him coming off that really good 2021 year at Baylor. If he would have got hired right away, right? Yeah. He would have been 21 at Baylor and 2022 with Napier in his first year at Florida. So yeah, it would have made a lot of sense there. But if it could have happened there, but of course, the thing about this, and for whatever reason, I left this out, and I mentioned it in some ways, but I didn't probably stress it enough. I think some people, they wondered, and hey, I even got asked, what kind of scheme does he run? Well, he runs the same exact scheme we've seen the last couple of years. The Patrick Toney, Austin Armstrong are disciples of Ron Roberts and what he was able to do on defense. And it's pretty much the same defense as a Kirby Smart at Georgia and a Dan Lanning at Oregon. These defenses are pretty much the same. Of course, talent's different. What you do inside of it, how you want to run that scheme is different, but it's pretty much the same scheme there. So is it, just a scheme that relies a lot? I mean, we know you need the talent. We know you need the players. That's first and foremost. I'm hoping that it doesn't have to rely so much on that, because while I think there are talented pieces for this defense, they are still so young in so many places. And I guess I'll kind of transition there with the news of Manny Nunnery today transferring out. And he's just a guy. I'm not going to talk up. I'm not going to talk him up. I'm not going to talk him down. Played later on in the year after Shamar James goes down. They need another linebacker when Scooby Williams is out there struggling on the field at the same time. So Manny Nunnery gets more playing time. But besides Shamar James and Derek Wingo, you're looking at a very, very young linebacker core. While very talented, Shamar and Wingo, the top two there in experience. Then you got Pup and Jaden Robinson and Spurlock, Graham and Giles. I mean, it's a lot of talent, but a lot of youth at the same time. So, given Ron Roberts and what he was able to do in that turnaround at Auburn last year on defense, and this style of defense, I do think there's enough talent, but to improve, not to be an elite defense by any means right now, but at the same time, can he garner? Can he gather this talent to take a step on this defensive side of the ball?
So speaking of Pup, where exactly is he going to play on the defense next year?
So I did share that. I talked to his high school position coach, who he's still very close with, and it's going to be inside linebacker with the ability to move the edge. So in pass rush situations, expect to see him outside linebacker edge, but if he's going to be a 3-down back, first and second down, expect to see him more on the interior. So they're going to move him around a little bit. But he's mainly still going to, like you saw Shamar and Scooby line up, a lot in the middle of the defense. You're going to see that probably. Ideally, I think Shamar and Pup. Pup basically just taking over that Scooby role. That's what his high school coach told me. That's what was shared with them. The plan to use him, because I saw all the talk about him mainly just being an edge rusher or something like that, and I made sure to reach out, and they said, no, that's not what we were told. So there you go. I'm getting everything. He said that's not what I was told, or that's not what Pup was told. So I'm going with that. Not to say he won't play some edge, not to say he won't be pass rush specialist in some situations, but still mainly an interior linebacker.
Dave, I think the frustrating part about the losing the guys is just like I think Pup and all those guys are going to play over like the Manny Nunneries and the Scoobies, but I just think it from a depth standpoint, it's just kind of like is there something disconnect or something? The staff's not selling to them, or maybe they're just pushing them out. But I'm just confused of why so many guys want to leave. And it's like you're going to play, like Scooby and Nunnery was going to play, and all these other guys were going to play. But I mean, I guess they're just clearing room for other guys. I'm really not sure.
Well, I mean, the timing of these make me think they're not forced out. Now,
yeah, that's true.
Now maybe getting somebody like Pup. All right, maybe, but I still don't think they forced Manny out with that. So I think it's their decision, and especially at linebacker. We're all excited for these young guys. We're all excited for Graham and Childs, and maybe what we saw flashes from Robinson last year and getting Pup in, and maybe they don't want to split the reps. Maybe they're. I do think for Scooby, maybe some of it was going through another change with the staff and having another linebacker coach. And don't get me wrong, if you want stability, you're leaving and going somewhere new anyway, so it's kind of the same thing. But I can see where the churn of different coaches, your position coach, and a different one coming in this year, would kind of make you second guess of where things going at Florida. But ideally, or not ideally, I think most of it probably comes from. I think eventually, like you said, these young linebackers probably going to overtake those guys.
It wouldn't hurt to get a couple more out of the portal just to have some depth or some experience. I mean, asking these freshmen that were just sophomore and Robinson to play a whole season, that's asking a lot.
Yeah, but if you go through number-wise, you got Shamar, Wingo, Pup, Robinson, Spurlock, Graham, and Child. That's 7 linebackers out there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Real quick, back on Roberts. How much influence do we think he's going to have? Is this Napier kind of pumping the brakes on Austin and bringing him in to maybe be more of the DC, only just keeping the titles, keeping Austin his title? Or is it still going to be Austin's defense and Roberts is just there as a mentor to kind of input, his knowledge? I mean, how do you see it?
It's a very interesting dynamic. How I see it now,
because I would think Roberts would be coming in here to call plays and kind of be the head man, and Austin Armstrong is be like, okay, or Napier telling Armstrong, we love you. We want you here at Florida, but maybe you're not quite ready, for this job. Maybe you still need a little bit more learning. That's kind of how I would interpret a hire like this, which I'm fine with. I'm just kind of wondering if that's how it is.
Yeah, I can see that, and I'd probably lean that way a bit too. I think also, there's a couple of ways to look at it. I think one is in preparation, during the week, and I think that's one place where Ron Roberts is really going to shine. I think that's one place he can really help Austin Armstrong, but on game day as well. Yeah, that's the one I'm probably a little more hesitant to say how it's going to play out. To me, given Ron Roberts, his experience, I mean, does he really come in and take orders from Austin Armstrong? When just a few short years ago, Armstrong was a grad assistant under him at Louisiana.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I think Ron Roberts is coming in here to take over the defense. I mean, in contracts and whatever, or keeping Austin Armstrong with his title, and I don't know. That's just kind of what it looked like to me, and I don't think that's a bad thing. By all means, I think that's a good thing. I mean, but and I don't, like I said, I may be wrong, but that's just kind of how it looks like to me. That's my personal opinion.
I mean, they're both going to be massively, massively involved in the game planning. That'll be a team effort, no doubt about it. And on game day, yeah. I mean, is there one play caller? I mean, of course, you don't want it to filter through two guys before it gets out there, and we've all seen throughout the years just how lost the Gator defense can look before a snap. So you don't need any more of that. So there definitely needs to be the lead guy there, get the calls in. But a lot of that stuff is game plan throughout the week too. At the same time, but I mean, if it's me and the way I look at it, I kind of agree with you, and I lean that way. I think it ultimately goes through Roberts. Now, does it get broken up into certain game-like situations, down in distance or where you're at on the field? I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to maybe think of, because this is a weird situation. It really is. Now, is it really any different than co-defensive coordinators, though? And just forget about the titles, and that's really what they are. Now, in the past, that was Armstrong calling the plays, while co-DC's, Sean Spencer was pretty much just to get some more money in his contract. But this one, I don't necessarily see that way. I think it's if you told me to choose whose defense is this going to be, I'm going to lean Roberts. I can't see him coming to Florida, especially after he was just a DC in the SEC. He improved in Auburn defense. Like I said, just a few short years ago, Austin Armstrong is underneath him, learning from him, mentoring him there at Louisiana. Maybe we'll get more, and I'm sure when Napier meets the press, and for the first time after this hire is announced, I'm hoping that will be asked. So we'll get some clarification on that. But that's the way I see it working out. And I did ask around a little bit, and that's how they see it working out as well, that it will ultimately on game day run through Roberts. And it just makes the most sense to me at the same time.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, this is probably, even though, he is, one of Napier's guys, this probably was the best hire that, he could possibly make, hiring Roberts, because, we were all upset that, Bam Harmon didn't come here, but it's like, it's like an upgrade that we got Roberts and everything. Cause like he's coached good defenses just about everywhere he's went.
One thing I do want to know with this, and I'll let you chime in just a sec, Ryan, on this. I want to know the timeline of this happening. Has it been known for quite some time that Roberts was going to leave Auburn, and this was in the works for longer than we think? I have a hard time believing that, but there was a move that could have been made earlier at that point, where maybe you don't even if now some people say he was a secondary recruiter for those guys that flipped to Auburn from Florida, but it was just a move that could have been made sooner to help a finish on early signing day. Did everything to make this happen after early signing day? When the dust settles, I'd like to know maybe the timeline of how this got started and when it got started.
Yeah, I think we all do, Dave.
Should be a good story.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
so far on paper, it's probably Napier's best hire that he's made. I mean, just going off history.
I mean,
with Roberts.
Yeah, we thought Corey Raymond was that. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying on paper. That's what I'm saying. We ain't seen nothing yet. I'm just saying if you look down resumes, write down resumes, like, yeah, this is a good hire, especially getting him as linebacker coach. Which is ultimately what the position we were hiring for.
Yeah, I've heard some behind the cases that Armstrong still may be more involved with the linebackers. So like I said, I think
that's fine.
Yeah. Like I said, there's still some angles to this that probably need to be hashed out. Just looking past titles, and kind of see where that stands. But that is something I heard a little bit more of this past week.
And that's probably where he kind of needs to be right now. I mean, that's where Alabama hired him. They didn't hire him to call plays. They hired him as a linebackers coach. And I'm not saying we're, at the same level as Alabama, but maybe Billy Napier kind of saw the same thing, that he gave him a shot and be like, maybe you're not ready quite yet. And the moves have been in motion, trying to get it fixed.
But my
timeline for Roberts would be interesting.
My worry there is, if you didn't think he was the guy, did this just happen to fall in your lap? Or, as I'm saying, kind of going to the previous storyline, or is this something that has just been in the works? I don't know. But if that thought is, don't get me wrong, if it became available, like us, say a week and a half ago, it starts coming out that maybe he's not going to be at Auburn anymore, and then you start to setting the wheels in motion. And then we'll give Billy Napier some. If that's the case, I'll give Billy Napier some credit there of not resting on your laurels, trying to improve your situation here. How much will it improve it? We just got to wait and see, let it all play out. But at least, if any inkling that he got that this was going to happen, now maybe it was Roberts contacting and trying to get out of Auburn, or maybe Napier catches wind of it and sets the wheels in motion that way. But at the same time, if the belief wasn't there in Armstrong, that's probably not good either.
I get the feeling that it was something that happened kind of late. Like maybe maybe feelers were put out and nobody would, nothing was definite. And then it kind of developed later where there was a chance that they could get him. So it was like, okay, let's do this, because it's obvious that they needed someone who was very experienced to turn the defense around.
Anything transfer portal for Florida you guys want to get into? I did know there's not a whole lot of news out there. I know the Air Force tight end is supposed to be visiting Florida this weekend. Air Force does not throw the ball a lot, so that's a visit coming up this weekend. But also just kind of an update on CJ Daniels, a wide receiver from Liberty. Looks like he's going to visit LSU this weekend. So an Auburn visit, a Florida visit, a Texas visit, now an LSU visit. It's supposed to happen this weekend. So I don't know if that means he's not hearing what he likes from Auburn, Florida, Texas, or he's just doing his due diligence. And look, he's probably shopping around. I mean, we know what's going on right now, but kind of the latest on him, he's going to visit LSU this weekend. And when it really looked good for Florida over this past weekend, and somebody I think that would be a difference maker for this Gator offense through the transfer portal. So hopefully he doesn't like what he sees there in Baton Rouge and, decides on Florida sometime soon, but we'll keep our eyes on that one. See if he makes the visit. We know how fast these things change, but also, and this kind of will get us into our next topic, but we'll go Alabama transfer portal. We know now players can transfer there from there with the retirement of Nick Saban. Jameer Grimsley's name is probably the hot name that comes up a whole lot. The defensive back, of course, that just signed with Alabama. Would he be able to, would he look to leave Alabama already? Keon Keeley was a name as well, going back to a year ago along the defensive line edge spot, listed as a linebacker. So he's that outside linebacker edge type of guy there for Alabama. Florida was really in on it late for him. He's somebody who would look around. Of course, there's a few names out there, but those are the two that really kind of stand out to me the most, especially Grimsley coming up from the recent recruiting class. But That's about it for transfer portal as far as stick out storylines. Is CJ Daniels with LSU visiting a visit there this weekend, and what's going to happen at Alabama?
Dave, if you think that you know, because we've had a lot of guys on campus as far as like corners and stuff and safeties and everything. Do you think that maybe we knew that this was going to happen? When Billy maybe knew this was going to happen with Saban, and maybe just knew that maybe Grimsley could get back in the fold or something?
I don't think so. Even Nick Saban said yesterday he really didn't fully. Now, okay, let me go back. Even he said he didn't really fully decide until almost right before the team meeting. But at the same time, I did listen to Josh Pate and his podcast, and even he said like he didn't know it was coming yesterday when it happened. Now there had been some talk around the beginning of the season, even a bit, but there's some talk around the SEC championship game and the college football playoff that it could happen, but nobody still really knew that it was going to happen. So, and Saban, put out that interview today and basically said, part of the reason was he put a lot more on himself this past season. He got a lot more involved in the defense and got more to got more hands on it, instead of so much hands off. So I don't think so. I do think it was, I won't say necessarily crept up on Saban, but I don't think, I don't think Florida's roster situation right now, especially back in the defensive backfield, has much to do with the timeline of Saban.
With all the coaches changing jobs and everything, because everybody's going to leave. Do you think maybe Billy's waiting on counting on maybe some of them transfers? For maybe some of these other schools that are going to lose their coaches. You think maybe we're counting on that? Like Alabama, for instance, and maybe if FSU's coach decides to leave or Washington's coach decide to leave, with Will Harris's connections over there,
I wouldn't necessarily say waiting on that particular, but it could just work out where you were maybe wanting to save some spots for that spring portal window. Well, now this happens. So those spots you may have been saving for the spring portal window, maybe more of those get taken up because of all the coaching changes.
Yeah, that's true.
These coaching changes on top of coaching changes pretty much just roll transfer portal, like from one transfer portal right into the next one. For a lot of these teams.
That is, you're right. That is crazy.
You get that 30-day window after somebody coach leaves, so you're rolling it right into the spring portal.
Because the rumor is Alabama's wanting to hire a coach by the end of the week. So, we're looking at tomorrow, Saturday. So you look at that. And so you're left with about 27 days for them. And then whoever they hire, add 30 days of that one. So you're probably looking at the next 40 days probably. If this is the chain reaction kind of happens fast, 40, 45 days of still guys that can enter the transfer portal. Gators Breakdown Plus, starting at $3 a month. Link is in the description, and you get access to all these features. You get extra episodes. You get access to the Discord server where you get to have text chats. Hey, another big bonus, ad-free Gators Breakdown episodes, Q&As, giveaways, custom shout-outs, all that at Gators Breakdown Plus. Link is in the description. Come join us.